want to begin by asking you, what do you make of President Biden's arms embargo? What can you do about it?
Well, it's outrageous. It's hard to believe. He picked this moment to cut off support. Israel's, obviously, is entering the final stages of removing Hamas from Gaza, and we passed this bill, the supplemental just recently, and we also passed the appropriations bill that gave money to Israel. And that intent was to allow Israel to end this war and to use the weapons they need, the munitions they need.
Do you think the president's action violates the Impoundment Act? Because when Congress acts and funds something and the president signs it, he doesn't have a lot of authority not to do what you've agreed to do.
The presidents, and this is in general, have ignored Congress for too long. And I think you're right. I think we need to look into that Impoundment Act. Right now, he needs to immediately release these munitions. They're sitting on trucks over at Dover, ready to go. Boeing's already cashed the check, and they're not going to give it back. So we need to get that assistance to him right now, and certainly we need to look into this Impoundment Act.
Who testifies in front of your subcommittee on this, Congressman? Because I think they really ought to be pressed on who is micromanaging the delivery of weaponry to Israel.
Well, my belief that's Jake Sullivan is primarily involved in those decision-making processes, directing the Secretary of Defense. By the way, Jake is on the phone calling all the Democrats, whipping against this bill. They don't want any Dems to vote for this.
What does this bill specifically do?
What it does is it's a resolution sent to Congress. It blocks the Defense and State Department from canceling the delivery of defense articles or defense services to Israel. By the way, what we do know is that they've stopped delivery on 2,000-pound bombs, 500-pound bombs, some GDAMs, which are the kits that are using to make these bombs, these so-called dumb bombs, accurate, which is what you need. And God knows what else they're doing in order to pressure Israel and not going into Rafah to finalize this war and to end Hamas.
Now, Congressman, I expect that will pass, and I hope they notice that, and I don't care if Jake Sullivan's lobbying against it. The CPI comes out at the bottom of the hour, and I expect it's going to be above 3% again. I was doing some research this morning. California, L.A. and Riverside have the worst inflation in California. So what are your constituents talking to you about in Riverside? Are they talking to you about inflation, or are they talking to you about Israel, or both?
Both, but obviously inflation affects people's lives. Gasoline prices in California are the highest in the country, and as you know, Riverside people commute to work every day and use several tanks of gas a week, and this is coming right out of their paycheck. And the price of groceries, the price of eggs, price of bread, price of just the commodities to live by is crazy. And if you've gone to a fast food in California lately, you know that you're paying 20% more, 30% more than you were just a year and a half ago.
We had sticker shock on Saturday night. We drove up north and didn't feel like cooking, so we went out to our favorite pizza place. I was actually kind of stunned that 2 pizzas can cost that much money. It's just astonishing.
Well, I was in the restaurant business, and I sympathize with people that own these restaurants and trying to operate, but they're only passing along the cost to the consumer that they're being inflicted by, and it's terrible. It's as you can see, a lot of restaurants are going out of business.
Now, Congressman, I want to switch up to politics a little bit. Speaker Johnson went up to New York to be at the Trump trial yesterday to speak because the president's under a gag order, which I believe is unconstitutional. Did you applaud the speaker for doing that? Because I do.
Yes, I think the speaker needs to, stand behind our president and our new, going to be our president-elect soon, and our nominee, and we need to unite behind him, all the Republicans, and put behind our differences and get behind President Trump immediately.
Well, I think Johnson is also a constitutional officer, and he needs to speak up for the Constitution. The First Amendment should not allow this. I know gag order law pretty well. I have to teach it, and this is just outrageous. So let me go to my conversation last hour with Michael Waltz. he agrees with me that the Department of Defense needs new primes like Joe Lonsdale and Palmer Luckey and people like that, and that contracting has to change top to bottom. Does that have to come out of armed services, or can approps do that, Congressman Calvert?
Well, we've been working together, both with the authorizers and the appropriators, on doing that. And by the way, Palmer Anduril has gotten a go-ahead to move forward on the new collaborative combat aircraft, along with General Atomics. By the way, they picked two companies that are not primes. That's moving in the right direction. I think that what we're seeing with the so-called doomsday plane, where Sierra got the contract to move ahead on that, that's good news. And so we need to keep the department moving in that direction to get innovators, people that are doing new things and putting out product for less money and a better quality in the end.
Well, Lonsdale explained submersibles to me, but I haven't heard anything about the doomsday plane. What is that?
Well, there's two 747s that we have that, in case there's a nuclear war, that's where the command and control would be located. They're getting quite old, and they need to be replaced. So Sierra Nevada got the contract to build those two new aircraft.
This morning I saw a story out of China that they are about to launch their first drone carrier. I didn't even know about it, neither did some of the other people who are defense followers. Did you know about it, and what do we have to do about our shipbuilding? Because they're just crushing us, Congressman.
Yeah, as you know, a substantial amount of trips in the world are made in China and South Korea and Japan. The United States pretty much left the shipbuilding business, and now we have to rebuild our capability, which is going to be costly and timely, and we got to get on it right away. I know a little bit about this so-called drone ship. Obviously drone technology has moved a long way, and we've got to move very quickly to make sure we continue to have our advantage. Our advantages are slipping, quite frankly.
Last question, Congressman. How quickly can we expand shipyard capacity in the United States? I know, for example, at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, they're out of capacity. In Maine, they're out of capacity. I don't know about the other shipyards. Where are we going to expand our shipyards?
Well, we need to utilize our private shipyards better. The public yards, as you know, are totally full, and we've got a backlog of ships for normal maintenance and and obviously ship construction. We can't even meet our schedules on our Virginia-class submarine, which we should be at 2 a year. We're less than 1.5 per year. And even if they had the money, they can't meet that schedule because the workforce isn't there, and the capability and the capacity isn't there. So we need to rebuild our shipyard capability, and we need to do it very rapidly. That's going to take money. There's not enough money in the appropriation bill that I'm doing now, the FY25 bill. I'm talking to our friends, both the authorizing and Senate side. I know Lindsey came out yesterday, but about some methodology to get more money into the industrial base, the defense base. And so I think we have to have a serious conversation very quickly about how we do that.
Last question. Can we give some money to Australia and Singapore, the former to start building submarines and the latter to maybe have carriers dock at Singapore and not just Japan?
Yeah. Well, the technology exists for a nuclear submarine program. We are working with Australia under the WOTUS program, and Australia has committed money to do that. The problem is building nuclear ship facilities takes many, many years. And so what we need to do immediately is to expand what capability we have in the United States and then work with our allies to give them that capability over time. Japan is much further along in their shipbuilding capability than just about any one of our allies, and certainly South Korea. I think we ought to deal with South Korea and Japan, especially on our maintenance of ships overseas. It could save us a lot of time in shipping these back into the United States to fix them. It takes years and a lot more money, but we need to use our allies more effectively.